Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Now, if you're tuning in, I already know a little something about you. You're a focused learner, you're the kind of person who puts in the work, you know your stuff inside and out, and you genuinely care about competence. Basically, you've got the intellect. But have you ever felt like, despite knowing all the facts, your message just kind of falls flat? Well, today we're diving into some fascinating communication psychology. We're looking at those tiny, almost invisible habits that can completely undercut how competent you look to everyone else. Okay, let's dive into this. Just think about this quote for a second. You could literally be the smartest person in the room. You've got all the right answers, and yet, because of just one small, unintentional habit, you could come across as the exact opposite. So this explainer is all about uncovering those hidden traps. We're going to shine a spotlight on the subtle things we do, usually totally by accident, that signal a lack of confidence to the entire room. To understand how this happens, let's start with Section 1, the intelligence illusion. Subtitle, Perception versus Reality. And this brilliantly illustrates the core issue right here. Actual intelligence and how intelligent you appear to others are two totally different things. Side A is your actual intelligence, what you know, your brain power. But that is entirely separate from Side B, which is how people subconsciously perceive you. It's like having a high-powered sports car engine but looking out of a completely muddy windshield. You can have a sky-high Side A, but if your communication habits are getting in the way, Side B is going to plummet. People can't read your mind, right? They only have access to your delivery. So I've got to ask you this directly, and I really want you to keep it in mind as we go through today's explainer. Which habit is secretly sabotaging you? I want you to do a little self-analysis here as we break down the 5 most common habits that cause this massive perception gap. Pay close attention, because you might just recognize yourself in one of these. All right, moving right along to Section 2, words that weaken you, where we look at volume versus confidence. These first 2 habits are basically verbal traps. We fall into them when we mistakenly think that in a high-stakes room, we need a huge volume of words to prove our intelligence. So habit 1 is over-explaining simple things. Adding totally unnecessary detail to a really straightforward point. And look, it usually comes from a good place. You just want to be thorough, but actually, scratch that. It completely backfires. Over-explaining makes you seem unsure of yourself. Or even worse, it makes it look like you don't trust the other person to understand you. The reality is, true confidence sounds shorter. When you know it, you can just state it simply. And that brings us to habit 2, filler words under pressure. Now, to be absolutely clear, if you use a filler word here or there in casual chatting, no big deal. We all do it. But when you lean heavily on these words, especially the second you get asked a direct question, it completely dilutes your confidence. Even if your underlying answer is 100% right, leaning on those fillers instantly signals uncertainty to your listener. We all know exactly what this sounds like. It's the classic, I think that the data points to. Yikes, right? It sounds flooded. It sounds super uncertain. But watch what happens when we just drop them and snap back to a confident tone. The data points to this conclusion. Bam! The answer is literally exactly the same, but the perception is night and day. It's a tiny shift, but a real game changer. Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, the panic response. Subtitle, Physicality and Pacing. It's not just our words, our bodies and our timing react when the pressure hits. Habit 3 is rushing to respond. This is when you just jump right in with an answer before you've even fully processed the question. We do this because silence feels super uncomfortable, but rushing almost always produces a weaker, way less precise response. People don't care about your speed, they notice the lack of precision. Instead, try doing exactly what I'm doing right now. Just pause. Taking a deliberate, brief silence shows you're thoughtful and totally in control of the room's time. Next up is habit 4, avoiding eye contact. This is looking away, maybe staring down at your notes, or just gazing at the wall while you're trying to make a big point. Now, maybe you're just an introvert, or maybe it's just a habit that helps you concentrate. It absolutely doesn't mean you don't know the answer. But to the audience, man, they unconsciously read that as a total lack of conviction in what you're saying. All right, moving into Section 4, sabotaging your own ideas. Welcome to the self-deprecation trap. This one is honestly heartbreaking because this is where we literally talk other people out of believing in our genuinely good ideas. Habit 5 is laughing off your own points. It's when you present a great idea, but you instantly undercut it with a nervous laugh or a verbal disclaimer. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the long-term effects. When you do this, you aren't just hurting that one idea. You are accidentally training people to take you less seriously over time. You're basically giving them a free pass to ignore your expertise.
We see this happen all the time. You deliver this brilliant, totally bulletproof strategy, and then just tack on, but I don't know, just a thought, haha. That little nervous laugh completely deflates the whole thing. In a professional setting, even if your point was fantastic, that self-deprecation makes the audience instantly dismiss it. You worked so hard for that knowledge, so whatever you do, don't just laugh it away.
So let's pull the whole shebang together. Look at how these habits map directly to what people subconsciously hear. Over-explaining in filler words, they hear uncertainty. Rushing to respond, they hear a weaker point. Avoiding eye contact, they perceive a lack of conviction. Laughing off your points, they learn to take you way less seriously. I want to reiterate this. These habits happen because you're under pressure. They do not happen because you lack knowledge. But unfortunately, they trigger these devastating subconscious reactions anyway.
But hey, I've got great news. Let's move to Section 5, Fixing the Delivery. Subtitle, Closing the Perception Gap. We aren't just going to leave you hanging with the problem. I want to shift to a really empowering resolution here. So the crucial point is that delivery is a skill, not a fixed trait. None of what we talked about today is about your actual intelligence. Every single one of these things, the rushing, the over-explaining, the fillers, they are all totally changeable. You don't have to fundamentally change your personality. It just takes a tiny bit of conscious awareness.
Here's exactly how you do it. Step 1, just notice your default habit under pressure. You don't need to be someone else, just catch yourself when things get tense. Are you a rusher, an over-explainer? Step 2, utilize a brief pause. Silence is literally your best friend when you need to reset a habit. And step 3, shift the perception. Once you drop that nervous habit, the way your audience perceives you shifts incredibly fast. Honestly, way faster than you'd ever expect.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Which of these defaults will you notice the next time you're under pressure in a meeting or a conversation? Awareness is always that first step. Take this real psychology, apply it immediately to your next interaction, and just watch how the room responds to you. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. If you found this helpful, be sure to hit follow for more simple, structured explanations just like this one. Catch you next time.